What's up, YouTube? Back up another video, back up another bang. As y'all can see by the title of the video, man. Today we're gonna be reacting 3 true horror story animated. Man, this this part of the same video that we was doing. So this really part 2, cause this it's the part of the same video. It's like an hour long, bro. But like I said, I want to hold y'all for, you feel me? But man, like, comment, subscribe. Y'all see y'all was fucking with that one, man. But hey, man, we finna keep it running out, man. You feel me? Running out, man. But I'm gonna give y'all 3 again today. And yeah, we're gonna see what it's talking about, man. Hey, they real too. They showing evidence in this bitch, man. So y'all just gotta tune in with me, man. Tune in with me, man. Like, comment, subscribe, share this video, man. And you know, we running it up. 2K, run it up. Let's get it. True NBA playoffs horror story. Ooh, okay. The following story were inspired by.
All in all, I think the luckiest thing that ever happened to me in my life was being born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. From there, sharing a birthplace with the basketball legend LeBron James, I've been able to get closer to him than I bet most wannabe fans could ever dream of. But if you're really a fan like me, just living in the same city as the idol isn't enough. Cities are big places, and elite men like LeBron James spend very little, if any, time amongst the masses. That's not a problem I face myself, however, because I know how to get close. It's all about those courtside seats. They bring you so close to the players that you can very nearly feel the heat dissipating from their bodies. And every now and then you get lucky enough to trade a few words with one of them. LeBron! LeBron! I love you, LeBron! Come home and have dinner with me! I'll cook for you! I know how you like your steaks! I'll do everything for you! Every time I meet with a family member, they ridicule me and chastise me about how much money I spend on getting those tickets at every home game. But they don't understand how important it is to me. It's not like I'm going broke over it anyway. I don't see what's wrong with it if I can afford it. I mean, some people spend their money on vacations and computers and clothes, and I spend my money on getting as near to LeBron James as I can. I would say it's like my hobby, but LeBron James, more than anything, more than money and more than women, is what gets me out of bed in the morning. It's hard for me to explain it. He's just so iconic. Everything he does just exudes badassery and confidence, virtue and compassion. He's like the greatest single specimen of a human being that's ever existed. He's indomitable on the court, undoubtedly a powerhouse in the gym, and an angel in mortal coil everywhere else. Now, people often call me biased. They say he's not the greatest who ever lived, though he may be close, and that I just feel that way because we're both Cleveland natives. Those people might be right, but it doesn't matter to me at all. LeBron and I have a history together. You know his famous chalk throw, where he throws a cloud of chalk into the air and watches it disappear with his fans? Whenever I'm courtside, I carry with me a big Ziploc bag that I've coated with honey on the inside and wait for the throw, while everyone else is stunned in slack-jawed amazement. You might see me on the cameras holding up an open bag with great pride, hoping to catch some of the chalk particles that have recently been graced by contact with the skin of LeBron James.
This nigga
his skin.
Weirdo.
How it contains such divinity. I'm proud to say that I myself have gone a step further from gathering his chalk, and I've actually touched the man himself. One night after the game, LeBron was doing a little photo op with some other fans. I saw him surrounded by a bunch of starving-looking little kids in hospital gowns, and I struck while I had the chance. I still keep a printout of that photo on my nightstand. It's the first thing I see when I wake up, and the last thing I see before I sleep. But even the photo itself means little compared to the experience I had getting the photo. Hey LeBron, I'm your biggest groupie. I mean, fan.
Yeah,
I hope you can hear my cheers amongst the Cavs fans.
It's pretty good, but I know we can be much, much louder than any fan base, in this league. And,
can I please take a picture with you? Hurry up, kid. You're not the only fan here. I was slick with it. I put my arm around his shoulder while we posed for the photo, and right after I snapped it, before he could get away from me, I caressed the top of his head for just a moment. Oh, did that feel good. Stroking the casing of that magnificent brain, feeling the hair and the grease transfer to my fingers. Even if those fibers didn't grow directly from his head, they still mingle with his sweat and sweat and went along for the ride of a well-played match. I hate it when people make fun of his hairline, as if it makes him any less angelic. But anyway, I might have made a bad impression on LeBron on that occasion, though I'm not really sure why. All I know is that he gave me a very strange look and walked away very suddenly, abandoning all those Make-A-Wish kids. Moments later, I was getting tossed around by a bunch of security meatheads who threw me out of the stadium and threatened to have me banned from all future games.
Yes, bro.
Who do you think you are, man? Don't you have any respect? Get the hell out of here! Obviously, I couldn't get banned or my life would be over. So as much as it pained me, I took a back seat for a season. Though I saved a lot of money by not getting courtside seats, that season sucked. I was forced to watch him give love to all his other fans while I sat on the sidelines of the sidelines. It made me so angry. There was one occasion where LeBron almost ended our relationship altogether. He just finished scoring the winning baskets of a really tight game, and it was bad enough that I was forced to watch it from 1,000 feet away. But afterwards, there was this whole celebration in LeBron's honor. I wanted so bad to run out onto the court with him, but I just barely held myself back. But that's when I saw him do something that made my blood boil. He changed his shoes and jersey and signed them, then just gave them away to some homely-looking chubby kid. Afterwards, I found that ungrateful little snot and followed him out of the parking lot. I lured him away from the crowd, then demanded to have the shoes and jersey. No way, man! I got these and they're mine! I'm gonna sell these for a fortune in 10 years! Cram it, you little twerp! Those belong to me! Now, I do regret the lengths I went to, but I did what I had to do. I socked him right in the nose, hoping he would just crumble and pass out, but then he started screaming. Ow! Oh my god, what is wrong with you? That's when I knew I had to make sure he wouldn't be able to tattle. So I had to break his face just a little bit. Nobody was near the alley, so I had enough time to beat him to a juvenile pulp, take what belonged to me, and get the hell out of there before anyone saw. Unfortunately, the little brat soiled both the jersey and the shoes by getting blood all over them and staining them. It's alright though, because I wasn't planning on selling those. Ever. It was around that time, however, that tragedy struck for Cavalier fans. LeBron got traded, and of all places, to the Miami Heat, and no matter how hard I tried to swing it, I could just never afford courtside seats in Miami and plane tickets there and back all the time. I'm ashamed to admit it, but there were a couple years when I didn't see LeBron at all. I'd forgiven him already, of course, and I had to make sure he knew that. When he started becoming active on Instagram, I reached out to him there. I sent him a message every day for a few months, but he never got back to me. I didn't have any followers, so I must have looked like a bot or some kind of scam or something. If he knew it was really me, I'm sure he would have responded. And even though LeBron eventually returned to Cleveland, I had to do something to make do during that time in between. At first, I built a little shrine dedicated to him using all the little pieces of him that I've gathered over the years. My family thought it was a joke when I told them about it, but it's not. I was trying to find ways to legitimize it, and then one day, heaven delivered to me the perfect gift. I saw an ad from a LeBron James lookalike who was offering to do birthday parties for little kids while impersonating LeBron James. Obviously, I knew what I had to do, because I knew the real LeBron would loathe to see such an imposter making money on his likeness. I lured the impersonator into a trap with relative ease. And now, with just a little bit of imagination, I have LeBron James in my basement whenever I want him.
This shit is sad, bro.
Let me go, please. LeBron, you look enchanting this evening. Do you prefer red wine or white wine? I don't care. Please just let me out of here. I won't tell anyone, I swear. Oh, Mr. James, you should really use your inside voice. Now where is your bag of chalk? Have you forgotten your before-dinner ritual?
No shit crazy, dog. His ass is a fag, bro. Part 2 freaky video recorded by Ring Camera 3. Okay. See what they talking about. Terrence Nicholas' son. This one I like. Oh shit.
There are hundreds of doorbell video clips revolving around clowns, but the backstory behind this video has got to be the most disturbing. Here you can see the clown in front of a house while holding what appears to be a large kitchen knife. The following story portrays a dramatized reenactment of the encounter. Here's what the story looked like. In the last several years, it felt like a lot of the big dramas and outrages have been started by what are called jokes by the people that are saying and doing the things that are getting negative attention. Historically, you'd find a guy like me sticking to the side of, let people joke how they want, and don't get offended if you personally don't find it funny. Quite a few people have tried to persuade me out of believing this. Some of them were level heads, just trying to get me to understand why people are sensitive to some things, but Others were a little more aggressive in their statements to me. Of course, I never really listened to the people who were trying to have a productive conversation. I genuinely loved to jump into the fray and troll people who I thought were taking their opinions a bit too seriously. And I wasn't just this way online. The digital presence of a troll that I put up was an extension of who I was in real life. But I always knew that most people would describe me as having an attitude problem, being a little crass, or just a jerk. I didn't mind being seen that way. It was all verbal stuff anyway. I never threatened or hurt anyone physically. But the thing about always being negative like that is, well, it builds up a lot of bad karma, as I've come to learn. And eventually all this bad karma caught up to me. I never saw it coming, but once it happened, I started reflecting on my actions and how they got me in that situation. It was all pretty obvious. On Fridays I didn't have work, so I'd always get a head start on my weekend. I spent most Fridays lounging around my house and doing some chores at a very leisurely pace. Sometimes pre-gaming for the parties I was going to find myself at come nighttime. This was one of those occasions on which I started getting rowdy pretty early in the day. I was getting my mail around 3 p.m., a drink in one hand as I stepped out the front door to check the box. I remember being rather annoyed with the bills I received in the mail that day. I'd gotten a ticket for running a red light, which arrived at the same time as my utility bill and HOA dues notice, so quite a few expenses popping all at once like that soured my mood pretty bad. That's when I saw one of the neighborhood kids biking down the road, probably going home from school. I saw that kid a lot. My house must have been on his commute to school. From time to time, I'd call out to him and try to make some jokes, but he never seemed to appreciate them. He'd always give me the evil eye or throw me the bird or just ride on by pretending he didn't hear me. On this particular day, he looked worn out, dejected, seemed like the perfect target for a little joshing around. I took a guess as to what was messing with him and tried to dig at it. "Yo kid, maybe if you ditched the raggedy old bike and got a car, that girl wouldn't have curved you so bad." Suddenly the kid did something I didn't expect. He hit the brakes hard and skidded to a stop, swinging out his back tire and looking straight at me. "Maybe if you got a life and minded your own business, I wouldn't have to take you down a peg." What does that even mean, kid? You can't say weird stuff like that. You'll never make any friends that way. You better sleep with one eye open, jerkwad. In the moment, I couldn't help but laugh. A threat never feels emptier than when it's shouted at you from someone 10 years younger than you on a bicycle. However, though I guess I can never prove it, I'm pretty sure that threat was real. A night or two later, I slept soundly. I didn't give any mind to that kid. I have about 15 security cameras and a bunch of high-powered floodlights all around the exterior of my house, which I had installed for reasons you could expect for someone of my personality. I always knew my antics could create enemies who might want to try and get back at me through my house, but I never thought the cameras would capture something as strange as they did. When I awoke the next morning, I couldn't shake this feeling that something was wrong. Every time I rounded a corner in my house, I got the chills, and I couldn't tell why. To alleviate my suspicions, I decided to check the security footage from the previous night, thinking there would be nothing of any concern. I was wrong. Late in the middle of the night, around 2 a.m, an unidentified figure approached my house. He or she was dressed in a clown costume, looking just like one of those creepy killer clown sickos from all those weird videos that were surfacing in 2016. They were armed with a ridiculously long knife which they brandished in front of the cameras. First they snuck up to my front door and tried to open it, jostling the handle to see if it was locked. Of course it was locked and they weren't able to get in from there. The microphone on my doorbell overheard their deranged conversation with themselves. "You locked the door? How dare you? I know you can see me through your little camera, you vermin. Take all the screenshots and footage that you want. This won't be the last time you see this face." Even as they talked to themselves like a crazy person, they were extremely quiet. Still, the motion sensors on the floodlights lit them up all the same. This clown character wasn't spooked by the lights, however. They seemed to be familiar with the layout of my house, like they'd seen it before. They did an entire lap around it, checking the lock on every single window and door, peering inside and scratching the walls with their knife. "You really dodged a bullet. Or should I say, a knife." But the weirdest part is, as quietly as they appeared, they also just left. It's very disturbing to know that I was completely unaware of all this as it was happening. I have an alarm system in my house, but all it would have taken was one unlocked door to give them enough time to sneak in and slit my throat before I'd even woken up. It's pretty embarrassing, honestly. I can't say for sure, But based on when this all happened and how popular those killer clown videos were with high schoolers at the time, it makes perfect sense to me that the one kid on the bike would be the culprit. But again, I wasn't 100% sure. The fact that he strolled around the perimeter of the house made it seem as if it wasn't his first visit. But for the first few days, I didn't connect those dots, and I was worried half to death that I was being stalked by a real sicko. After seeing the footage, I really did sleep with one eye open for a few weeks. Just goes to show you should be careful who you mess with. It certainly taught me a bit about who I choose to make jokes about, and when. I know it's punching down to mess with a high schooler, but that doesn't mean the kid can't be dangerous. I mean, the kind of kid who would do something like this just for getting teased is the same kind of kid who might just snap on a whole different day, in a much worse way, given a different situation.
That shit is scary as fuck. What the fuck? What the fuck, bro? That shit's so weird. So, like, the nigga was just asleep while he was just circling around his house. That shit's scary, man. Disturbing children drawing with backstory. Part
This,
2.
hands down, has got to be the most creepiest story on the channel. Sometimes, kid drawings could look innocent, but when you dive into the true meaning behind the drawing, you can really discover some terrifying things. Here, you see an innocent-looking cat, but when you see what happens at the end of the story, you may question your sanity. Here's what it looked like. Most kids develop strange habits at some point during their childhood. Imaginary friends, eccentric rituals, or other strange compulsive behaviors. They can be brought on by just about anything, and the only limit is the imagination of the child. So, I'm sure you can imagine my bewilderment when my teenage daughter started seeing the ghost of our recently deceased cat. Now, the teenage years of a kid's life is about the time when they start finding reasons to be mad and indignant with authority, as they begin to voice their disagreements with their parents. But all that stuff is usually over things like curfews and bedtimes and chores, not about a disagreement over whether or not the cat is still alive. I knew that cat was dead for a fact. I was the one who tried to catch it when it broke out of the house and ran out in front of a speeding car, getting itself turned to roadkill. I was the one who scraped it off the street and buried it in the backyard. Despite that, my daughter managed to find a way to blame me for the cat's death, because I scared it or something. I didn't care though. I didn't get mad back or anything like that, because on a deeper level I understood what my daughter was going through. And to some extent, I did agree that some of her stress was my fault. I'd recently taken a new job opportunity that required my family to move to a different city. My daughter detested this because she had been very involved with her old school. I felt bad, so I tried to make it up to her. I bought her a phone and a desktop computer for her room so she could stay in touch with her old friends over that internet thing the kids were all talking about. My wife and I even took her to the pound and let her pick out a cat for us to adopt. These things combined seemed to do the trick with keeping our daughter happy. However, when the cat died, things became worse than ever. At first, it just seemed like she was not properly processing the grief. For a few days, she didn't say anything. She didn't go to school. All she did was draw. I'd go into her room from time to time to remind her to study and stay caught up. But it was like she didn't even notice my presence. She just kept drawing pictures of the cat, like a little kid with a brand new box of crayons would. Except, her drawings of the cat were actually pretty good. When she finally started talking again, my wife and I wanted to celebrate, but we couldn't, because our daughter wasn't talking to us. She was talking to the cat.
Oh, I'm so glad you came back, Precious. You really are Precious, aren't you? Yes, you are.
Who are you talking to, sweetie?
I'm talking to Precious, obviously. She came back. I guess that means you have to start buying cat food again. Don't forget, she's so hungry.
My wife and I were taken aback. Our daughter had never had an imaginary friend before, so it was that much stranger to see her develop one now. Or at least, that's the way things looked. We tolerated the strangeness for the time being, however, as our daughter at least seemed to be happier. She started to go back to school again, which we felt was good. The only problem was that when she came home from school every day, she would start doing her old routine of taking care of the cat, dishing out some food and water, petting it, and talking to it and carrying it around. Except there was nothing there. She was just pantomiming. Still, we appeased her and got a few cans of cat food, thinking that she would surely come to her senses at any moment. But that's not what happened. We watched her set the food out, and the next day it would be gone. We didn't have a dog, so to us, there was only one explanation. Wendy, we need to talk. We've noticed that you've been talking to yourself lately and we're worried. And about the cat food, you haven't been eating it, have you?
Oh my god, no. What do you need, glasses? Precious has been eating it, obviously.
But Precious isn't here anymore, sweetheart. She's not coming back.
What do you mean? She's right here in my arms. You guys are so blind. I can't stand you.
My wife and I just didn't have a clue on what to do. That night, I was losing sleep, stuck awake worrying that my daughter had gone crazy. That's when I heard a noise from downstairs that sounded exactly like a cat sharpening their claws, tearing up some fabric. My wife had managed to get to sleep, so I dared not ruin her rest. I jumped up out of bed and threw on my robe and walked downstairs by myself. I found the back of the living room sofa had been torn to shreds, like a neurotic feline with abandonment issues had been locked in there alone. I was immediately flushed with a mixture of frustration and horror. Then, a door upstairs slammed shut. I knew that it was my daughter's room. I rushed upstairs, but instead of barging into a room, I stalled. I saw two shadows shifting in the light, spilling out from beneath the door. I heard my daughter talking to herself again, but this time I heard meowing in response. I quietly shuffled up to the door and put my ear against it. I swear I could hear purring. When I thought I'd heard enough, I swung open the door, somehow thinking that I'd see some random stray cat living in my daughter's room. But of course, there was nothing. She was just laying on her bed, acting like she was holding something, petting it and smiling at it and kissing it. I gasped in complete shock at the sight of my daughter acting like a schizophrenic. Wendy jumped up in surprise when she noticed me.
What are you doing? Haven't you heard of knocking?
What? But what are you doing? It's a school night. You should be sleeping. At a loss for words to say or actions to take, I very awkwardly retreated back through the doorway and gently closed the door. I listened in again, but she turned the light off and didn't make any more noise. The next day, after I'd gotten home from work and Wendy was back from school, I thought I'd try something. I found a camera I'd gotten from a relative the previous Christmas, a regular old film camera with most of the shots left in it from the first film reel we'd ever loaded into it. So, Wendy, I know we've been having some disagreements about Precious. You believe she's still around, and your mother and I believe that she isn't. I thought of a good way that we could find out once and for all who's really right.
With pictures? Okay, let me go get her.
She left the room to retrieve the cat, returning with her arms stretched out in a weird position as though she was holding a fully grown house cat. She smiled and I framed up the camera, then snapped the picture. When the flash went off along with the click of the mirrors inside the camera, Wendy flinched and dropped her arms.
Oh no, that scared her.
She ran off in pursuit of the phantom feline. I wasn't able to get Wendy to take any more pictures with the cat. Apparently, it was thoroughly frightened by the sight and sound of the camera. One was all I needed, though. I took the film roll to the photo lab and had it developed as soon as possible. I waited until my wife and my daughter were both home before opening the envelope. We were all sitting on the couch together when it was revealed. Wendy was ecstatic. To this day, I still can't explain it. I've stopped trying to. The picture I took, even though I saw that there was no cat when I took that photo, the photo itself contained a flawless image of Precious, sprawled out in my daughter's arms, exactly the way it would have been if it had really been there. This image is allegedly the same image taken by the family of the daughter and her quote-unquote invisible cat. When the family got the picture developed, this is what they found. This is just downright terrifying, as the cat seemingly appears in the girl's hands, despite nothing being there when the photo was taken.
Oh my fucking god, bro. Hey, what the fuck? Dude, that shit is weird, bro. That shit is weird. His fucking daughter was seeing shit. If y'all enjoyed this, man, like, comment, subscribe to this video, man. Shit. Man, we grinding. Fuck you talking about, man. Yep.